In this video, an RFQ setup is demonstrated. After Mary has created the RFQ from her procurement account, the next step is to set up the user workflow. Mary will now demonstrate how the workflow is managed for the RFQ. The status of the RFQ indicates workflow is not created yet. Mary will click on the icon to start the process enabling the workflow. A count of up to 12 stages of workflow is available in the sequence as shown from top to bottom for every RFQ. Once set up, the RFQ will move in the sequence as organized here, which is precisely defined and applies to all the RFQs, starting from the creation stage as demonstrated and started in the previous video, to all the way down to the final stage, closeout. Mary could choose all the 12 stages or deselect certain stages if not applicable. Certain stages are, however, mandatory after the RFQ has been created and initiated, namely material controller, invitation to bid, bid submission, single source approvers or commercial approvers, award or non-award, and closeout. For example, if Mary didn't want to add the technical approvers stage, then she would simply deselect it and the workflow will move directly from the bid clarification stage to the single source approvers or commercial approvers. Mary could keep the variation in scope stage selected, as that will allow a management of change function to be available for the RFQ before the final closeout stage. Mary will assign the start and end dates for each of the selected stages of the RFQ workflow, and thus a schedule would be applied to each RFQ. Mary has the authority, having created the RFQ, to adjust the dates for any of the stages in the RFQ workflow, provided they follow in sequence with each other. Changes could be applicable if any of the stages needed adjustment to match the realities faced during the workflow process. Mary will now assign users to each of the selected stages. The company admin had previously assigned permissions to nominated users per category of RFQ, and this list of users with one or more permissions as granted is always controlled only by the company admin in the back end of procurement. The company admin could also verify what permissions have been granted per user by going to the Reports section and selecting the user by his name in the User Permission Report, or otherwise all users. This will display all the user permission details, allowing the company admin to make changes and additions progressively. Mary will now select from the available users and assign John, Jim, and herself for selected stages of the RFQ workflow, drop-down selection simplified for the user. Mary does not need to select any user for the stages that have been excluded in the RFQ workflow. If Mary needed users to be added in the back end of procurement for selection by Mary or any user per RFQ, a request can be sent from this window to the back end of the system. The company admin would, on receipt of the message and based upon acceptance, assign additional users and assign permissions for user usage from the back end of procurement. The RFQ setup is now completed and is ready for getting initiated by the same user who created and set up the RFQ before moving through the multi-stage workflow. In the next video, procurement will demonstrate how the RFQ gets initiated by Mary.